Have you ever noticed how your brain is naturally wired to scan for what is missing rather than what is present? We are the descendants of survivors who had to obsess over threats, shortages, and dangers just to stay alive. And this evolutionary hardwiring has left us with a negativity bias that can turn our modern lives into a desert of dissatisfaction. You might have a roof over your head, food in your kitchen, and people who care for you. Yet your mind fixates entirely on the one promotion you didn't get, the one comment that hurt your feelings, or the one dream that hasn't come true yet. This psychological focus on the empty space creates a persistent feeling of lack, a chronic thirst that no amount of achievement can ever truly quench. We tell ourselves that gratitude is just a soft, fluffy sentiment for those who are already successful. But what if gratitude is actually a survival mechanism for the mind? The internal struggle often manifests as a feeling of being stuck on a treadmill of misery. You believe that you will be grateful once your life is perfect, once the problems are gone, and once the miracle arrives. But in waiting for the external world to change, you remain a victim of your circumstances. Scientific research shows that chronic complaining and focusing on lack literally rewires your brain, strengthening the neural pathways for stress and anxiety. You become blind to opportunities because your reticular activating system is only looking for proof of your misfortune. This mindset doesn't just make you unhappy, it makes you ineffective. It drains your energy and kills your creativity. To understand how a simple shift in focus can actually change your physical reality and bring miracles into a barren life, we must listen to the story of a woman who carried an empty basket through a land of drought, searching for a secret she didn't know she already possessed. Ilara lived in a village nestled in a valley that had forgotten the touch of rain. The soil was cracked into 1,000 jagged pieces, the wells were low, and a sense of gray, heavy despair had settled over every household. While others tried to find water or save what little grain they had, Ilara was consumed by a different kind of thirst. She was a woman who saw only the dust. She woke up every morning and cursed the dry air. She walked to the village center and compared her meager portions to those of her neighbors, always finding herself lacking. Her house was filled with the echoes of her own complaints. She felt that life had cheated her, that she was destined to wither away just like the dying crops in the fields. She carried with her a large woven basket, an heirloom from her grandmother, but it was always empty. To Ilara, that basket was a symbol of her life, a hollow vessel waiting for a miracle that never arrived. Her internal conflict grew so heavy that she decided to leave the valley. She had heard of a man who lived on the highest peak of the surrounding mountains, a man they called the Gatherer. It was said that he possessed the power to bring rain and abundance to those who asked. Ilara packed her empty basket and began the long, grueling climb. Her feet were blistered, her throat was parched, and every step was accompanied by a mental list of her grievances. She thought of the unfairness of the drought, the coldness of her neighbors, and the persistent ache of her own unfulfilled desires. She was so busy documenting her misery that she barely noticed the eagles soaring above, or the resilience of the tiny mountain flowers that managed to grow between the stones. After 3 days of climbing, she reached a small stone hut at the very summit. Outside, an old man sat on a bench, looking out over the vast, dry valley below. He was not dressed in fine robes, nor did he have any magical artifacts. He held a simple wooden staff and a small cup of clear water. Ilara approached him, her voice trembling with exhaustion and bitterness. "I have come for the miracle," she said, holding out her empty basket. "My life is a desert. My valley is dying. I have nothing, and I am tired of being empty. Give me the rain. Give me the abundance." The gatherer looked at her, his eyes reflecting the deep blue of the high-altitude sky. He didn't offer her a spell or a prayer. Instead, he looked at her empty basket. "You want me to fill this?" he asked. Ilara nodded vigorously. "Then you must first show me what you have found on your journey up the mountain. A basket cannot hold new grain if it is already filled with the weight of shadows." "I have found nothing," Ilara snapped. "The path was rocks and dust. I am tired and hungry. There were no miracles on the way up, only struggle." The gatherer smiled sadly. "That is the tragedy of the blind traveler. Go back down, walk the same path. But this time, you are not allowed to return to your home until your basket is full. But here is the rule. You may only put items into the basket that represent something you are truly thankful for. Even if it is a single pebble that felt cool against your foot, or a dry leaf with a beautiful pattern. Do not come back until the basket is heavy." Ilara was furious. She felt she had been mocked, but she had no choice. Her pride wouldn't let her return to the village empty-handed. She began the descent, her eyes fixed on the ground, determined to find anything just to satisfy the old man's ridiculous whim. For the first few hours, she found nothing. Every rock looked like a rock. Every gust of wind felt like a nuisance. But as the sun began to set, she saw a small, vibrant blue feather caught in a thorny bush. She paused. It was a beautiful color, a shade she hadn't seen in the gray valley for years. She reached out, felt the softness of the down, and a tiny, unfamiliar spark of warmth touched her heart. "I am thankful for this color," she thought. She placed the feather in the bottom of the large basket. The next morning, she woke up and noticed the way the first rays of light hit the mountain peaks, turning the gray stone into glowing gold. It was a magnificent sight, one she had seen 1,000 times but never truly looked at. She felt a brief sense of awe. She picked up a smooth white stone that had been polished by ancient waters and placed it in the basket. "I am thankful for the light," she whispered. As she continued her walk, the shift in her perspective began to accelerate. Because she was now looking for things to be thankful for, her brain stopped scanning for threats and started scanning for beauty. She found a wild herb that smelled of lemon. She found a trickle of water hidden deep within a shaded crevice of a rock. She found a sturdy branch that served as a perfect walking stick to ease the pain in her knees. With each item, she took a moment to truly feel the gratitude. She didn't just pick things up, she acknowledged their value. The internal struggle began to quiet. The heavy list of grievances in her mind was being replaced by a list of small, quiet victories. The basket, once so light and hollow, began to feel substantial. By the time she reached the midpoint of the mountain, the miracle began to happen, though not in the way she expected. Because she was no longer hunched over in bitterness, her breathing became deeper and more rhythmic. Her energy returned. She found she could walk longer distances without fatigue. Her interactions with other travelers she met on the path changed. Because she wasn't projecting misery, they responded with kindness and shared their food and stories with her. Her reality was shifting because her internal filter had changed. She reached the village on the 7th day. Her basket was overflowing with stones, feathers, dried flowers, interesting roots, and jars of mountain water she had collected. She walked through the village square, but she didn't see the dust. She saw the strength in the faces of the elders. She saw the playfulness of the children who could still find joy in the dirt. She saw the potential in the dry earth. She didn't wait for the rain to feel rich. She felt rich, and therefore, she had the energy to act. Ilara didn't go back to her house to hide. She took her basket to the village well. She began to share the mountain water, but more importantly, she shared the stories of the things in her basket. She taught the villagers how to scan for the gold in the stone. She organized a group to dig deeper into the crevice she had found, and they discovered a hidden spring that had been blocked by debris for years. The water began to flow, not by a magical spell from the mountaintop, but because one woman had the clarity of mind to look for it. The transformation was visible in her every move. Her house was no longer a place of echoes. It was a place of light. She continued to carry her basket every day, emptying the old items and filling it with new ones. She realized that the basket was never meant to be a destination for a miracle. It was a tool for the heart. The drought eventually broke, and the rains returned. But Ilara knew the truth. The real miracle wasn't the rain from the sky, but the rain of perspective that had turned her internal desert into a garden. She was no longer a beggar waiting for a gift. She was a sovereign, creating her own abundance, one thankful breath at a time. The moral of this story is that gratitude is not a reaction to a good life. It is the discipline that creates one. Gratitude is a cognitive tool that overrides our natural negativity bias, forcing the brain to recognize and utilize the resources that are already present. When you focus on what is missing, you paralyze your ability to act. When you focus on what you have, you empower your creativity and resilience. Psychologically, gratitude acts as a filter for your reality. By consistently practicing the recognition of value, even in small, seemingly insignificant things, you rewire your neural pathways to seek opportunity instead of threat. This is the miracle of the empty basket. Transformation does not require an external change in circumstances. It requires an internal change in focus. Discipline your mind to see the gold in the gray, and you will find that the world has been waiting to provide for you all along. A life of lack is a choice of perspective. A life of abundance is a practice of the heart. Stop waiting for the miracle and become the one who recognizes it.